Imagine this. In 1943, during the height of World War II, the United States Navy conducted an experiment so dangerous that even today, officials refuse to admit it ever happened. They called it the Philadelphia experiment. The goal was simple: make a warship invisible to enemy radar. But what happened next was far beyond anything they had planned. October 28, 1943, Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. A destroyer escort named the USS Eldridge was prepared for a classified test. Dozens of scientists, military officers, and engineers stood by as massive generators were activated. The idea was based on electromagnetic field manipulation, a theory that, if powerful enough, could bend light around an object, making it invisible. At exactly 9 a.m., the experiment began. Witnesses reported a strange green-blue glow surrounding the ship. Then, within seconds, the USS Eldridge completely disappeared. Not faded, not cloaked. It was gone. For several minutes, there was nothing but empty ocean where the ship once stood. And then, it came back. But something was terribly wrong. The crew, they were not the same. Some sailors were found fused into the metal structure of the ship, their bodies partially embedded in the deck, as if they had become one with it. Others were alive, but completely insane. They screamed about seeing things, about being trapped in a place where time didn't exist. One sailor reportedly vanished in front of his family weeks later, mid-sentence, never to be seen again. The Navy immediately shut down the experiment. All records were classified. All witnesses were silenced. Officially, the experiment never happened. But in 1955, a man named Carl Allen sent a series of letters to a scientist. In those letters, he claimed he had witnessed the experiment from a nearby ship. He described details that were never made public. He said the ship didn't just turn invisible, it teleported. For a brief moment, the USS Eldridge appeared over 300 miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, before snapping back to Philadelphia. If that's true, then this wasn't just invisibility. It was time and space manipulation. Think about that for a second. If the military actually succeeded, then why did they stop? Or did they? Some believe the experiment never truly ended, that it evolved into something far more advanced, something we still don't fully understand today. Because even now, there are reports of ships and aircraft appearing and disappearing without explanation. So here's the question. If the Philadelphia experiment was real, then how many other experiments like it are still hidden? And more importantly, what happens when humans try to control forces they were never meant to touch? But what if I told you the Philadelphia experiment didn't end in 1943? It only evolved. After the disaster involving the USS Eldridge, the US Navy officially abandoned the project. At least, that's what they told the public. But behind closed doors, a new program was quietly approved. This time, it had a different name: Project Phoenix. The objective was no longer just invisibility. Now, they wanted control. Control over time. Control over space. And this time, they were willing to sacrifice anything to achieve it. Years passed. The project moved underground, far away from public eyes, deep within a classified facility, hidden somewhere in Montauk, New York. By the early 1980s, they were ready to try again. But this time, they didn't use ships. They used people. Subjects were recruited, some volunteers, others not so willing. They were placed inside a device known as the chair, a machine designed to amplify human consciousness. The theory was simple. If the human mind could be enhanced, it could influence reality itself. And for a moment, it worked. Witnesses claimed that trained individuals could visualize objects, and those objects would physically appear. Thought became reality. But then, something went terribly wrong. One subject, a man whose identity was never recorded, lost control. He was told to focus, to open a portal, and he did. But what came through was not part of the experiment. A massive, shapeless entity began forming above the base. It wasn't solid, it wasn't liquid, it was something else entirely. Witnesses later called it the Montauk Monster. The creature destroyed equipment, shut down systems, and reportedly attacked personnel inside the facility. Panic spread instantly. Scientists ran, soldiers opened fire, but nothing seemed to stop it. Because it wasn't just physical, it was reacting to thoughts. Fear made it stronger. And in that chaos, one decision changed everything. A technician shut down the power source, cutting all energy to the system. In an instant, the creature vanished. The base went silent, and just like that, the experiment ended. Or at least, that's what they want you to believe. Because according to several former insiders, the Montauk project was never truly shut down. It was relocated, upgraded, hidden deeper than ever before. Now think about this. If the human mind can create reality, then what happens when fear becomes real? And if something was able to come through once, what's stopping it from coming back again?
But what if everything you've heard so far is only part of the truth?
Because according to a declassified document released decades later, Project Phoenix was never the final phase. There was something after it, something far more dangerous. They called it Project Looking Glass. Unlike previous experiments, this one had a terrifying goal. Not just to travel through time, but to see the future. The theory was based on one idea. If time is not linear, then the future already exists. You just need a way to look at it. Somewhere in a hidden facility, scientists built a device capable of doing exactly that. A machine that could access possible timelines, possible futures. At first, the results were promising. They could see events before they happened. Small things like conversations, decisions, random moments. Everything matched reality perfectly. But then, they tried to look further ahead, years into the future. And that's when everything stopped. Because no matter how many times they ran the experiment, they all saw the same thing, the same exact moment in time. A point where everything just ends. No signal, no movement, no future beyond that point, just darkness. Scientists were confused. They tested different variables, different operators, but the result never changed. It was as if the timeline itself stopped existing. And then something even more disturbing happened. The machine started showing them something else. Not the future, but something watching them. At first, it appeared as a shadow, standing just outside the visible frame. But with each experiment, it got closer, clearer, more aware. Until one day, it looked directly at them. Inside the room, alarms went off. The system began to overload, and every screen displayed the same message. You were not supposed to see this. The project was immediately shut down. All data erased, all personnel reassigned or disappeared. Officially, Project Looking Glass never existed. But years later, a former engineer broke his silence. He claimed the machine didn't show the end of humanity. It showed something else, something that replaced it. And the reason the timeline ends is because humans are no longer there to observe it. Now think about that. If the future disappears only when we look too far, then is it possible that something out there doesn't want to be discovered? Or worse, it already knows that we are watching.